Welcome back to the virtual Y. Chance here with a Monday yoga practice. For these practices, I like them to be very accessible, kind of a gentle, flowing Hatha practice, a recapping of the fundamentals and empowerment to remind you that you can practice on your own anytime, not just using the virtual Y, but just any moment that you remember you're in your body. Revisit these poses, make them your own, check in on your body. Let's get started. I'm actually going to have a seat on this. So let's start by building the two most deep parts of the practice, like the depth, where we're working inside, where you can't necessarily see what's going on. So I'm going to explain to you what we're doing. So the breath, it's going to be the big part, the biggest part, because yoga is a practice of cultivating awareness, presence, wholeness. Yoga means to unite, to join. And what it means to me is to join your attention with the present moment, to join your mind with your body and your spirit, to join instead of separate, which we commonly are doing. So the breath is going to be one of the key tools in bringing us back to the present moment, in bringing us in to the here and now, because the breath is always taking place here and now. So when we come to it, we come to the details of it, and we notice however far away our mind had wandered, or wherever it was in the past or the future or somewhere else. That coming to the breath again and again and again reveals some type of peace or contentment. So let's explain the breath that we're going to be using. The Ujjayi breath, the ocean breath. A very basic, fundamental, good any time of day type of breathing to bring your attention inward. And it's an equal part, roughly 4 to 5 counts on the inhale and 4 to 5 counts on the exhale. So the equal length of the inhale and the exhale really helps to balance the nervous system. So let's just try it out. First, sit up tall, relax the shoulders, notice a long spine, notice where it takes work to maybe sit up tall to find space and length. And for this breath, we're going to breathe in through the nose if you can. Follow it all the way down to the bottom of your belly and fill your lungs from the bottom to the top. And then out through your nose if you can, for about the same length of time that your inhale took. So inhale, exhale. Keep on just noticing the breath. Inhale, exhale. So we're making the length of the breath equal in to out. Keep going. I'm going to keep on adding more details to become aware of. We're filling the lungs on the inhale from the bottom of the lungs to the top of the lungs. You might notice this sound of my breath. That kind of sounds like a louder breath or an audible breath. And I'm doing this by creating a slight constriction in the back of my throat. And this sound, this technique, is very key to the overall breath. The Ujjayi pranayama, the Ujjayi breath, is also known as the ocean breath because it doesn't take too much imagination to hear the sound of the ocean in the sound of the breath. So how do you do this slight constriction in the back of the throat? Well, it's the same part of the throat that you create like a snoring sound with. It's also the same part of the throat where if you're trying to fog up something on your exhales, like through the mouth, if you seal your lips, it's that same part of the throat. let's try to notice the sound of the breath on the inhales and the exhales. Let the inhale turn to exhale easily, seamlessly. Let the exhale turn to inhale, inhale turn to exhale. And we're just in this ongoing cycle of breath, like ocean waves. So this is what we're going to keep bringing our attention back to. No matter how far your mind wanders away, we find our way back to the breath. Very simple, but still challenging, because your mind, it wants to wander. Your mind will wander, but the practice is about bringing it back to this nice, soothing breath. If you forget and your breath turns quiet, who cares? You come back again and again. One more concept, we're going to be using an internal group of locks or muscles that are going to squeeze the internal world. So the first lock is the pelvic floor, the Mula Bandha, the root lock. And we lift this by like a Kegel lift. We pull in on the soft tissue of the bottom. You know, you might use these muscles in the bathroom or whatnot. You're used to just squeezing, pulling up and in on the soft tissue of the bottom, or maybe you're not used to it besides the bathroom. When you squeeze in there, notice a shifting of pressure and maybe an activation in the low back. And once you lift these locks as deeply as you can, you release it very smoothly, not just dropping it, but just letting it go. So this is the soft tissue of the pelvic floor, squeezing up and in and releasing. The second lock we'll be using is called the Uddiyana Bandha, or the upward flying lock. And we use this by pulling in on the belly button. It's like trying to suck in on your belly, like you're sucking it in. But when you suck in, do it to a point that you feel your mid to low back activate. Two very important groups of muscles, the transversus and the multifidi. They're supporting your spine and your abdominal organs, and just add this depth. So let's pair the breath with the bandhas. Dynamic movement, a coming and going, a give and a take, and just see what shows up in your body as you're sitting up tall. You're breathing, you're lifting, you're squeezing, you're releasing, you're just doing so many things in this present moment. But try to stay focused on the present moment, on these details. Depart from any self-judgment. Let go of any clenching or clinging. Let go of any narration or prediction or judgment. And just be with these techniques. See what's going on. Now that we got these fundamentals lined up, we're going to do some posing. But when we get into each pose, we're going to go through the checklist of how is my breath? Can I hear it? Are my bandhas lifting and releasing? And where has my mind wandered? Can I bring it back to the attention of these details? So let's start in a tabletop position. On your hands and knees, if wherever you're at, the floor is really hard and this is really hard on your knees, maybe you want a folded blanket, or maybe you can fold your mat over to double up the support on your knees. And just find what feels good. We won't spend too long here either, so if this just doesn't work for you, just focus on your breathing and your bandhas from whatever comfortable position you're in. So from a tabletop, squeeze your index fingers and thumbs into the mat. Externally rotate your shoulders, meaning that we're pointing the biceps forward and the triceps back, or the creases of your elbows forward and the points of your elbows back. And this opens up around the heart, the shoulders. Press the tops of your feet into the mat. Traction your feet and knees towards each other into the ground. Feel what muscles might light up in your legs, in your low back. Also traction your hands into the ground and towards each other to feel those muscles in your chest and shoulders, arms. Now we come to the breath. Deep, full breaths. Check in on those bandhas. Can you pull in on the belly button? Pull in on the pelvic floor. And just notice what's going on in your body. Does it feel like a lot of work? Does your mind want to wander? Does your mind feel bored or antsy or want to jump around? Keep bringing your attention back to the breath. The bandhas. And the muscles that are waking up as we're tractioning the floor. Let's take an inhale, lower the belly to a cow pose. So a slight arching of the back, the belly gets a little lower, the chest gets a little higher, the chin lifts. Let's externally rotate the shoulders. Feel that full expansion of the lungs. On your next exhale, we'll round through the spine, tuck the tailbone, tuck the chin, hollow out the chest, keep tractioning everything in. We'll transition from a cow pose on the inhales to cat pose on the exhales. And just feel your spine slowly moving. Notice the breath, the bandhas. Next, let's bring the big toes to touch, the knees wide on the mat, send the hips back, walk the hands forward. This is called extended child's pose, and you can always come back to this pose if it's comfortable to just ground down, to rest, to focus on nothing else but the breath and the bandhas. Honor your body. You don't have to do too much. This is a deep inward exploration, and we use those internal movements to keep bringing our attention back to. So you can pull the ground back towards you, tractioning those forearms into the ground, lengthening the spine. You can kind of rock the hips a little from side to side. Just notice where you find a stretch. And remember, you don't ever have to push a stretch to the point of pain. And instead, just finding that comfortable edge, noticing where there's no discomfort, and then that point where there becomes a little discomfort. And we want to breathe and work on those edges with just a little discomfort, not any extreme intensity. Next, we're going to come all the way forward to a Low Cobra Pose. So you can come with your chest down to the ground and your chin down to the ground and kind of scoot forward so you're onto your belly. Once again, if this doesn't work for you, don't worry about it. Some simpler versions of this from your belly. If you're on your belly and can stay on your belly, maybe just lay your cheek on your hands and kind of use the expanding belly of the breath and those bandhas to just work from here. This is called Crocodile Pose. You can push the tops of your feet into the mat. You can have either cheek onto the ground. It's going to stretch your neck. So maybe, halfway through, switch it up. Or we're going to take Low Cobra Pose, which is a little bit more involved, a little bit more engaged. We can lift the chest up off the ground using no weight in the hands. We're just using strength in the low back. Push the tops of your feet into the mat. Pull in on your pelvic floor. Pull forward on your heart. Pull your shoulder blades and elbows back towards each other. And maybe slightly tuck the chin a little bit. And breathe down to the belly. 3 full times. Bandhas, breath. It's soothing, coming and going. On your next exhale, we're going to gently press back to extended child's pose. Some big full breaths here. A deep squeezing of those bandhas reveals that work that we did in the low back. Take a couple breaths and squeezes of those internal locks to see what shifts. And we'll next press back to extended, down dog. Now this is kind of intense pose if you're not used to practicing, so other alternatives is extended child's pose or tabletop position here. But for downward facing dog, if you feel equipped, if your body feels okay, squeeze the hands into the ground, flip the toes under, lift the knees up off the ground, send the hips high. Now the details of this pose, this is a full body stretch and strengthen. We're going to squeeze the hands into the mat, rotate the shoulders outward, meaning point the points of the elbows down toward the ground. Next, we push our heart back towards our thighs, tuck the chin, point the crown of the head toward the mat, and breathe deeply. Feel how the shape of the lungs changes, lengthens, reaches into your hamstrings, your hips, your low back, shoulders, heart. Good. Just take a break anytime this feels too intense. We're going to keep pushing the heart back toward the thighs. Tuck the chin, point the crown of the head toward the mat, look up toward the belly button. And on your next inhale, look to the hands. Exhale, step the feet behind the wrists and fold forward for Ragdoll Pose. For Ragdoll Pose, have a nice bend in the knees. Soften the soles of the feet. Relax your face, your shoulders, your eye sockets, your jaw. Keep on allowing the breath to grow and release whatever tension is there. We're just observing the body with non-judgment. We're just being present here. You can release both hands to the mat. Slowly rise to stand. Shoulders and head are the last to come up. We'll shrug the shoulders up, back, and down. Notice what you find. Notice if there's any draining, any tingling. If you feel lightheaded or that you need to take a seat, make sure to bend your knees so you come down to the ground smoothly instead of tipping over from way up here. And just notice that we've done a lot of chemistry. Stuff is shifted around. Your body might feel warmer, might feel tingly, might feel more aware. And that's exactly what we're doing. Every breath is going to peel back a layer, revealing more and more of yourself in the present moment. So let's start with Tadasana, mountain pose with the arms at the sides. Just look down at your feet. Make sure your feet are hip-width distance apart, a nice sturdy foundation. So the outsides of your hips line up with the outsides of your feet. And we want a little bend in the knees, not like a deep bend, but just a tiny micro bend in the knees so that our knees aren't locked. We don't want to stack our weight on top of our bones. We want our weight on our muscles, so there's a little spring to us. Next, you traction your feet into the ground and towards each other. So when you're squeezing into the ground and your feet are dragging kind of towards each other, you're going to feel this activation in the inner lines of the legs. You want to feel it all the way up into your low back. And slightly roll your tailbone under a bit. So your tailbone's not sticking out. It's kind of under a little bit. So we feel This nice spring-like attachment to the ground, this inward center line pressure from the inner legs moving toward the feet, dragging towards each other. And we're going to imagine the crown of our head right above our tailbone. So we're pulling the crown of our head up like we're being pulled from the top of our head. Let your shoulders relax away from your ears, your palms face forward. Come back to the breath. Lift and release those bandhas during any cycle of breath that feels good. Notice where release, softness, stiffness, resistance, heaviness. Notice where sensations arise. And if it feels like something you don't want or feels undesirable, see if you can just let it go. You don't have to judge it. You don't have to grip it or block it out. Let it arise and let it go. Next, we'll bring our hands to heart center, pressing those palms together. Feel your palms on your palms, your fingerprints on your fingerprints. Feel your shoulders away from your ears. Feel this connection to the ground, and also your head reaching up into space. Let the energy move through you and from you. And find a little gratitude for this moment, for your ability to be aware, for your ability to stand, for your ability to decide and make some choices in your life about what you do with your time and your attention, what's important to you, where you show appreciation. Just find gratitude. On your next inhale, we're going to sweep the arms overhead, active through those fingertips. We'll hold here for a couple breaths. My arms are up. My feet are still tractioning the ground. There's still a slight spring in my knees and my tailbone's rolled under. My shoulders are drawing away from the ears, and I notice where there's space across the front of the heart. Big deep breaths. I notice where my arms feel like they're working, or where my fingertips feel tingly, or whatever sensations arise, I'm there to observe it in curiosity and amazement and gratitude. We'll take one more big inhale. And exhale, fold forward, leaning your heart towards your knees. Nice and slow, just see what releases. On your inhale, we'll take a halfway lift, meaning we come up halfway. Our spine is long, our crown of our head is directly in front of our tailbone. We're still tractioning those feet towards each other and rolling the knees in towards each other to feel the legs engaged, the hips internally rotating. We're drawing the shoulders away from the ears, lengthening the spine, pulling in on those bandhas. My head's not sagging. My head is long, or my neck is long. My torso's long. There's no sagging or hanging. We're very engaged through the middle of the body. Those bandhas are pulled up and in to lift and support. We're going to take one more inhale here. And exhale, fold forward, nice and slow. See what shifts. Inhale, sweep the arms high, bending in the knees and rising like a wave, reaching the arms high. Exhale, hands to heart center. We're going to repeat that same series, this half sun salutation, several times to create heat and just see what moves around. Your inhale, sweep your arms high. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Softly, slowly, just see where you can soften. Inhale, sweep arms high. Exhale, hands to heart center. Remember, you don't have to fold too hard. You don't have to do anything. Inhale, sweep arms high. Everything is optional. We're just using these techniques to feel the here and now. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, sweep arms high. Exhale, hands to heart center. We'll go through this one more time. Inhale, sweep the arms high. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, sweep arms high. Exhale, hands to heart center. Good. So in this slowness, in this reverence, in this grace and gratitude, just stand up tall. Notice what has shifted, where has stuff been released or warmed up, or what are you now aware of that's in your body. On your next inhale, we'll sweep the arms high. Exhale, fold forward. And have a seat, bending your knees and lowering down. We're going to lower down right onto our back. Bring the the heels in close to the seat, the soles of the feet to the ground. I'm going to strengthen this low back one more time. Press down through your heels and the arches of your feet to lift your hips up off the ground. You can push your hands into the mat or interlace your fingers behind your back. As you lift the hips, we're going to engage by rolling the knees towards each other. Pull in on that pelvic floor. Tuck the chin. Relax the shoulders, heart, neck, face. Keep pressing the back of the neck and head into the ground. Keep breathing deeply into the belly. Feel that emphasis on the low back. Pull your heart towards your chin. And gently lower down. You can hug the knees into the chest. Rock your knees from side to side. And lower down onto your back for a final Shavasana. Just a scanning of the body to see what has shifted around. Where do you notice any tightness, any stiffness, any movement, any heat? And see if you can observe these things without judging them or labeling them as good or bad. Just sensations with no preference or no label. Can you receive the messages from your body without blocking them out or categorizing them? Can you just feel what is with gratitude, with love, with presence, with wholeness, with curiosity, with acceptance? Whatever lens works for you, can you just be completely here with no ifs, ands, or buts, with no shoulda, woulda, couldas, simply here and now, complete, and grateful, content, and whole. Connected. On your next inhale, take a long body stretch. Hug your knees into your chest. Squeeze yourself in tight. Roll down onto your right or left side. And return to a comfortable seated position. The light in me recognizes the light in you. Namaste. Thanks for tuning in. I hope this very gentle and fundamental practice was helpful. Remember to bring these techniques off the mat into your day. If you got to lift up something heavy or open a heavy door or carry groceries or whatever you do throughout the day, think about locking down those bandhas, thinking about taking full breaths. If you notice your mind or your mood is not exactly where you'd like it, bring your attention to your breath and just watch how some more intentional breath can change the way that your body feels, therefore giving you a chance to choose, how you want to proceed emotionally, physically, spiritually. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you got any questions, email me, chanceconnected@gmail.com. Thanks a lot.